My name is Ralph Kepple. I was the Director of Agronomy at East Lake Golf Club for 32.5 years and have just recently become Director of Operations with NanoOxygen Systems. My background with NanoOxygen Systems began back in 2018, well, really kind of 2017. In 2017, Hurricane Irma came through Atlanta. It was advanced week of the Tour Championship. And we got a bunch of rain, a bunch of debris down, but mainly the rain was the problem because unknown to us at the time, there'd been a sewage leak just outside our property, and that hurricane washed all that sewage into our 24-acre lake. During advance week, we started getting some horrific algae blooms. And then we started getting really thick mats of algae bloom on the top, blue-green algae, horrible smell. NBC had their announce booth sitting right on the edge of the lake, and they were complaining to me every day about that, and the players were even commenting about it. And so we started treating the lake with copper sulfate every morning, trying to knock that algae bloom down. We were also doing hydrogen peroxide treatments in the evening. So through that whole week, we just kept pouring chemicals in the lake and not really considering the issue that we were going to have with copper. And as it turned out, we got through the tournament. There was there was a lot of things going on that week, but we got through the tournament. We got into winter, and all of a sudden our greens started thinning out, like something I'd never experienced before. And in those areas where it was thinning, we were getting blue-green algae, and thick blue-green algae is another thing we'd never seen before. So we started trying to figure out what was going on. Talked to several different professors around the country, and one of them said, "Have you tested for copper?" And as soon as he said that, the light bulb in my head went off that we'd been treating that lake with copper that whole week of the tournament, but hand watering greens through the tournament. So we were just dumping copper on. So we had it tested, and we were off the charts on copper, and it's a toxic thing. And it's also something you can't just remediate out of the soil. So it created a real problem for us trying to work at agronomic systems, trying to work through that. And it took us several years to figure some things out. But in the meantime, I was trying to find a way to keep the algae under control, because now we had this just nutrient load in our lake from that sewage leak that had occurred. So I knew the algae blooms were going to start up again when we got into warm weather. So I started looking into different technologies, and I came across a company that was selling what they called nanobubble units. We ended up getting a unit, was trying to run that system. That system used a stone that pushed the water through the stone to create the nanobubbles. And the issue we started finding was the stone would clog up because the water was so dirty. So, and we were having lots of issues with that system. It didn't have straight oxygen. It was just pulling air, just common air. And we started working with Ron Pote at that time, trying to figure out how we could make this system work for us. And Ron was extremely diligent in trying to figure out a way to get this thing to work. And eventually he came up with a ultra fine bubble generator that used cavitation. And what we found was that system didn't clog up. So that was the first big component change that really made a difference. And we could see that, but it was still not producing the amount of oxygen we felt we needed. So then Ron was like, well, I think we need to get straight oxygen in here. So in 2023, he ended up building a system that had everything that he's got in his system now. So we were sort of the guinea pigs on how he built the system. But using the air sap and using a compressor, air sap, and including ozone generator in it, injecting that into the system right ahead of that processor, all of a sudden things changed. It wasn't like a quick turnaround, because the lake is like I said, 24 acres and it's 60 million gallons. So it took a long time for that change to occur, but we went from treating that lake at least 7 or 8 times in 2022 to treating it one time right before the Tour Championship in 2023. So it was obvious that the system was making a difference. We started off with, we had a probe in the lake, basically right at the bottom of the lake, we had zero oxygen, zero dissolved oxygen in our lake at the bottom when we started. We never got it up to a huge number, but we had it up to about 4 parts per million right before the tour championship. And we didn't have those algae blooms. We could see a little bit of algae in the lake. It was still cleaning it up, but we didn't have to treat it anymore with copper sulfate. Didn't have to use any other herbicides in the lake at all. And that was the goal we were trying to get to when we started that. And it was through Ron's diligence and trying to find solutions to the problem that we found this system. We found that it worked. For our lake quality, it was a massive change. And I can't imagine what we would have done if we hadn't found that system and got it to work the way it does.